King Midas and the Golden Touch. In today's world, avarice, greed, never having enough. Let's talk about King Midas and the Golden Touch. The story of King Midas is a myth about the tragedy of avarice and narrates what happens when true happiness is not recognized. Midas was a man who wished that everything he touched would turn into gold. However, he had not thought that this wish was not actually a blessing, but a curse. His greed invites us to think and realize the consequences that may lead us to become slaves of our own desires. The phrase, the Midas touch, comes from this myth and is used to say that somebody has a good fortune. Midas was a king of great fortune who ruled the country of Phrygia in Asia Minor. He had everything a king could wish for. He lived in luxury in a great castle. He shared his life of abundance with his beautiful daughter. Even though he was very rich, Midas thought that his greatest happiness was provided by gold. His avarice was such that he used to spend his days counting his golden coins. Occasionally, he used to cover his body with gold objects, as if he wanted to bathe in them. Money was his obsession. Does it sound familiar today? Money is the number one obsession in the world. By hook or crook, lie, cheat, steal, defraud, as long as you get it. One day, Dionysus, the god of wine and revelry, passed through the kingdom of Midas. One of his companions, a satyr named Selenius, got delayed along the way. Selenius got tired and decided to take a nap in the famous rose gardens surrounding the palace of King Midas. There he was found by the king, who recognized him instantly and invited him to spend a few days at his palace. After that, Midas took him to Dionysus, the god of celebration. Very grateful to Midas for his kindness, promised Midas to satisfy any wish of him. Midas thought for a while, and then he said, "I hope that everything I touch becomes gold." Dionysus warned the king to think well about his wish, but Midas was positive. Dionysus could do nothing else and promised the king that from that following day everything he touched would turn into gold. The next day, Midas woke up eager to see if his wish would become true. He extended his arm, touching a small table that immediately turned into gold. Midas jumped with happiness. He then touched a chair, the carpet, the door, his bathtub, a table, and so he kept on running in this madness all over his palace until he got exhausted and happy. At the same time, he sat at the table to have breakfast and took a rose from his hands to smell its fragrance. When he touched it, the rose became gold. "I will have to absorb the fragrance without touching the roses," I suppose he thought in disappointment. Without even thinking, he ate a grape, but it also turned into gold. The same happened with a slice of bread and a glass of water. Suddenly, he started to sense fear. Tears filled his eyes. At that moment, his beloved daughter entered the room. When Midas hugged her, she turned into a golden statue. Despair and fearful, he raised his arms and prayed to Dionysus to take this curse from him. The god heard Midas and felt sorry for him. He told Midas to go to river Pactolus and wash his hands. Midas did so. He ran to the river and was astonished to see gold flowing from his hands. The ancient Greeks said they had found gold on the banks of the river Pactolus. When he returned home, everything Midas had touched had become normal again. Midas hugged his daughter in full happiness and decided to share his great fortune with his people. From now on, Midas became a better person, generous, and grateful for all goods of his life. His people led a prosperous life, and when he died, they all mourned for their beloved king. Let me ask you a question. Pardon me here. That's Elijah. Let me ask you a question. Why is it that most people think that the more that they get, the more stuff, the more possessions, the more materialistic things that they have, that that'll make them happy? You know, Madonna, in her prime when she was a young woman, she recorded a song entitled Material Girl. This is what I have observed along the journey. I see a lot of people, and they're not happy. They have a lot of material things, but they're empty on the inside. I have read hundreds of biographies and autobiographies about the so called wealthy, the powerful, the privileged, the movers and shakers in our world. And I've also found out that they have a multitude of problems from within. Ask yourself this question along the way of life. Is it worth having everything that you need just to satisfy greed? Or is it better to have the character, the honesty, the trustworthiness, and at the same time, you can have the necessities of life? So before individuals say that they're not happy because they don't have material things, remember the Greek mythology, the story of King Midas and the golden touch. Tyrone Bowman, never surrender, never quit. Look at the comments real quick. Subscribe, make it look videos. Okay, well, hey, maybe somebody will subscribe to your channel. I'll check it out. Till next time, peace.